Morning, everybody. Happy Easter. And speaking of the soul and resurrection, we're going to talk today about soul retrievals. Now, as a shaman, as someone who's been trained in the shamanic arts, who's been initiated, we do something that's called the soul retrieval. Now, the soul retrieval online, there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of videos. I watched probably 30 or 40 videos real quick last night to just see what kind of content was out there. And although there's a lot of good stuff, vastly it's inaccurate, and it's kind of, in my opinion, just watered down, because the New Age spiritual movement does this a lot to things. We like to take pieces away from cultural beliefs in spirituality, and we like to take away the fundamental cultural, social pieces of those things and turn it into a westernized version of what we like. And in my opinion, there's no good authentic spirituality there if that's what you do. If you take away the cultural archetypes and the cultural base of what those things have come from, its origins, then you've taken away the most valuable source of nourishment for your soul and your spirit. So here I'm going to attempt to just talk a little bit about that, in hopes to educate people more on what it is that I do, what it is that authentic shamans do when they do a soul retrieval. So first we must talk about the soul. Now, I haven't made a video yet about the soul, but I will make a longer video about what the soul is and how it exists. But for now, we can all agree that we have three fundamental bodies. We have the mental body, we have the aura, or what we call the emotional body, and we have the physical body. These three things are your soul. There's no other big phantasmal thought processes needed. This is the soul. You are a human soul. You're not a alien soul. You're not a fairy soul. You're not a dog soul. Dogs have dog souls. Fairies have fairy souls. Aliens have alien souls. Eagles have eagle souls. Humans have human souls. Now, if this part of it gets confusing, then I will tell you to read Plotinus or read Plato, because they are the most comprehensive, hands down, resources for talking about what is a soul. They have spent their lives writing and pondering this trueness of what the soul is. And if you can find another source that is as reputable and as comprehensive, then please send it my way. I would love to take a look at it, and I have read many sources. But to date, this is the best sources that I can tell you to read about the soul. Now, this reading is very, very dry. It's not a action-packed novel. It's literal thinking and conceptual ideas, philosophical debate, and coming to the same fundamental principles of what the soul is. So if you need to really dive into that, I recommend Plotinus's Enneads, I think that's how you pronounce it, or Plato, most of Plato's works. But anything especially on the soul, and then Lambricus is also a good artist, or yeah, a good author to read as well. So we have this quick fundamental structure of the soul. It has these three parts. They correspond to the three things that we experience, right? It's the thing that we experience, the lens that we experience this reality through, this life through our mind, through our emotions, and through our physical body. They also have connections within the physical body. All three parts connect to the physical body in some place. So we have these three pieces of the soul. Um, and so now that we have the soul, let's talk a little bit more about it. The soul itself, let's say, is a bubble of vibration, or as it was explained to me by a teacher that I spent some time with, it's a balloon. And this balloon, if it's blown up to full capacity, if you hum into it while it's blown up, and some of us have tried this before just because we're weird, you can feel the vibration in the balloon, in the air. The molecules are excited. You can feel this vibratory energy inside the balloon. Even if it's filled with water, it does the same thing. You can still hum in it and feel it through the water. Now, the soul at its full capacity, when it's undamaged, when it's at its full shining potential, when you hum through it, it would carry that vibration, that song through it beautifully, with no interruptions and no deformities, no problems. But when you lose pieces of the soul, and what we're really talking about is losing power from the soul, where our battery, if you will, is losing pieces that help keep a good charge. So we're losing that power, and this degrades our life. It degrades our feelings. It degrades our mental capacity. It degrades our physical capacity. It makes it harder to experience joy. It makes it harder to think positively. All of those things. And so when we lose those pieces of our soul, and it's not energy. I'll talk about that in a second. It's not energy that you're losing. It's actual power. So energy is a degradation of power. Kind of like if you have a sun that's radiating, it's powerful, it's condensed energy, and on the outside of it is just these ripples, these waves of heat and radiant, even clear, translucent energy. Energy is the degradation of that powerful energy source. So your soul is actually that sun. It is that force, that energy source, that powerful source that's full of vital energy, full of earth energy, full of heavenly energies, all these celestial energies, all these earth energies mingling with your full potential as a divine being here makes this whole powerful unit called the soul. Now, that when the soul is whole, it's very powerful, and energy radiates off from it, and energy workers are so much more powerful. Everything is just right in tune and harmonized. But when you have gone through all kinds of different things now can cause the soul loss. Traditionally, it would be coming from when you're younger, and most of us have a lot of trauma when we're younger, and we need to work through all that in order to regain those pieces and live this fulfilled life. And so by retrieving those pieces, we can have that joy. We can have all that, experience this life to its fullness. The song, our celestial spiritual song, can vibrate through us with vibrancy and potency and power. And we can experience everything to the precipice of joy for ourselves in this world. Now, again, something that happens is when we're younger, we have traumas. Maybe we were told that we were stupid when we were younger. That stuff sticks in the psyche, sticks in the mind, sticks in the emotions, sticks in the body. Some of the other things are like like any real traumatic event, like traumatization from abuse, traumatization from drugs, traumatization from losing a parent at an early age. Traumatizations of any kind are really a big indicator that you definitely need a soul retrieval. But some of the other things are, blacking out, losing consciousness, like in a car accident, or losing consciousness from a disease, or losing consciousness from drinking and or using drugs and blacking out. But also, what I found is that in this world, we are just so traumatized, period. There's just so much trauma happening. Look at the school shootings. Look at the state of politics. Look at the way we are fighting with each other. Like, it's traumatizing to have your best friends or your brothers who have different political views walk away from you and stop talking to you or not want to engage with you because you have a different political view. It's traumatic to be bullied. It's traumatic to be, to lose a loved one after 40 years of marriage. It's traumatic to have these massive breakups in our relationships too. So there's a lot of trauma happening to the soul more so now than ever. In fact, there was a study that I just read that was talking about the level of PTSD in normal Americans, not even veterans, in normal Americans, has reached something like 85%. So that means a good portion of the population is overstressed, is over traumatized by life in general. And then you have like veterans, people who have seen action and seen death and seen war, who have their traumas. So the scale of trauma is much vaster than traditionally it would have been a long time ago. And it's really just gotten worse and worse. And so we're at a point where the soul retrieval seems to be something that is most necessary for a lot of people. Now, along with the soul retrieval, this is not like a meditation per se. The shaman actually brings you with them into a state, brings you with them into the underworld, brings your soul, tethers theirs to yours, and brings yours with them. And they bring back that piece of your soul, and they breathe it, literally put it right back into your body. So it's not something you can really just do from a meditation. You need training, you need a certain capacity to move your personal awareness, which takes, if you're not a person who's ever meditated or who has ever done any spiritual work, it's not as simple as just doing a meditation. It's much more palpable than just a meditation. So for all the online people, like, there's many valuable meditations. That doesn't mean don't do a soul retrieval meditation. That's great. Go for it. But what I'm saying, though, is to actually retrieve this piece of power that you've lost is not as simple as just doing a meditation. You really need a practitioner. You really need a shaman to do that work for you. So we have this power, that we give away all the time. We give away our power in so many different ways. We give it away to our friends. We give it away to our families. Obligations is one of the biggest ways we give away our power. Wayne Dyer says that any relationship with obligation is slavery. And I think that is a very, very powerful statement, especially from a man like Wayne Dyer, who is all about compassion and working towards being a compassionate spiritual person. So that means even he recognizes that obligation is a big way that we are drained of our power. Now, when you're drained of your power, you'll have all kinds of different things. You'll have confusion. It'll be hard to enjoy life. You just feel stuck in a funk all the time. You just feel heartache. There's many markers, but those are just some of the normal ones. You have a dark, dismal look on life. So there's all these different markers that show you've lost power. But you could just look at your life and look at the situations that you have right now and really ask yourself, am I giving away my power? If you're giving away some of your energy, you're probably giving away some of your power. And the biggest thing for losing power is boundaries. Now, we don't really have many boundaries in our society. In fact, America doesn't have much of a culture at all, in my opinion. We've been kind of brainwashed, and all of our culture has been stripped and diluted and whitewashed, so that we don't have many cultural archetypes in ceremonies and coming of age things and things like that really teach us where we are in this life. And I think that's a big problem. Because for most of us, sex, drugs, and smoking cigarettes is not only our God given freedom, but it's also the only thing that stimulates the rite of passage as a person moving from adolescence to adulthood. That's a major problem. That's why we have so many epidemics. That's why we have so many drug problems. We don't grow up with enough cultural, um, evolutionary, and personal strength, power building ceremonies, rituals, and experiences in our personal life growing to an adult. I personally think that that's a big problem, and I try my hardest to rectify that. Um, so we give away our power so much in this life. We give our power to our bosses, and we say, "Oh, well, they have power over us. You know, they're our boss. I have to do whatever they say." Well, that's not true. You're a human being. You have your own ethics, morals, and standards that you have to live by, and you shouldn't question them for somebody else because they're your boss or a friend or anything like that. So we need to create boundaries, and our boundaries have to be personal. They have to be not just like what everyone else does. They have to be our personal boundaries. We have to know ourselves to a degree to know even how to stand in our power. We have to know that if we get close to alcohol, if someone invites us to a party, we're going to get wasted and black out and act like a fool. And so we have to create a boundary that says, well, I can't really participate in those things. We also have to know how we think and know that if I'm prone to anxiety, I'm prone to, thinking bad thoughts right now, I'm in a bad space, maybe I shouldn't watch these murder mystery movies. Maybe I should kind of keep my mind focused on good things until I can pull myself out of this funk that I've been in. We have to have these boundaries. We have to understand ourselves to a really good degree. And so first the journey starts with understanding who you are, what your self is, where your ethics, your morals, your boundaries lie. Because if you don't know those things, then you probably don't enforce those things, and you're probably stepped on. You probably feel drained a lot of the time. You probably are, not really popular in your social circles. People probably don't respect you. You probably feel weak and powerless in most situations, and even if you put on a good front. So you really have to know yourself, and you really have to know your own ethics and moral boundaries. Have you crossed those before? What does that feel like? Where do you draw the line? And then once we create those boundaries for ourselves, we can start to take our power back. We can start to tell people no. We can start to get mad and say, you're crossing my boundaries. Or we can tell people, I don't do that. That's against my moral beliefs or my ethics. We have to start to stand strong in our power and start to take that power back from the world that we're giving it to. And so you could probably spend some time after watching this video evaluating these things. Write it down, make a list, whatever you have to do, and look at all the places you're losing your power. It's very simple. If you're giving away your energy, if you're questioning your ethics and morals and doing things that you really don't need to do, but you're doing it because somebody has power over you, or you're allowing yourself to be a victim, you need to really evaluate those situations because you're probably losing your power. And then we need to start standing strong in our power. One of the side effects after receiving a soul retrieval sometimes is the person starts to get a little feisty. They start to get a lot more feisty, especially if they were a weaker person and their power was taken away from them. When they get that power back, they start to feel more dominant. They start to feel more feisty. And they have to start learning how to balance that new feeling. That's that power coming back. So, evaluate your life, see where you're losing your power, grab those reins, create those boundaries, and start to pull your power back. I mean, we're giving our power to the TV company. We're giving our power to the IRS. We're giving our power to the government. We're giving our power to all these things that have power over us. And not to say that you don't need to pay your cable bill. But you have to realize what power those things have over you. At any moment, you can say, I don't need cable, and just shut that down. You have that power. At any moment, you can say, well, I'm no longer voting for that person. I'm voting for this person. That's your power. At any moment, you can say, I don't even want to hang out with that person because they're a bad person and they make me look bad. And then I give all my power to that crowd that I don't even like running with. I just do it because I want to feel popular. You can take that power back. You have the power. Set your boundaries. Take that power back. And when somebody trips over that tripwire of your boundary, you come at them like a ravenous dog and let them know that they've crossed those boundaries. Because we need that in this life. We don't recognize boundaries. Men don't recognize boundaries with women. We have a really hard time with that in this society. We all don't recognize personal boundaries and personal space. And there's a lot of people that just don't care. And they're just too penetrating for most of us, especially the people who've experienced trauma and who are semi-fragile, and they know that about themselves, and they need to stay in a certain boundary of protection. There's a lot of people that'll just push that. And so we need to be good at standing strong in our power within our boundaries and letting people know that they're crossing it. And sometimes that takes a loud voice. Sometimes that takes a stomping foot. And other times it just takes a simple word. So I hope I've explained some soul retrieval to you. Again, if you're seeking a soul retrieval, you can contact myself through Michael Phoenix Heart on Facebook or michaelphoenixheart@yahoo.com. If I don't have the time or the resources to help you, I can send you to other authentic shamans that I have trained with, that I work with even to this day, to help you along that process. So I hope I've helped explain what the soul retrieval is. I hope I've given it some clarity, because there seems, even though there's a lot of videos and meditations and things on it, it just seems to be very obscure to me. So I hope I've explained why you get the soul retrieval, what it's for, and kind of how it happens. Now the process of what the shaman does is a whole nother video. So this is just to kind of explain to a person who might be considering working with a shaman and getting a soul retrieval exactly why you would get a soul retrieval, what it does. I highly recommend at least getting a couple in your lifetime, because we've all had childhood traumas. We shouldn't lie about it. We shouldn't try to cover it up. A lot of our emotional issues that we have this day come from childhood. A lot of our mental problems that we have this day come from our childhood, from the way we were raised, from the society we grew up in. Maybe we experienced some traumas when we were a child. So we really need to heal those if we want to experience the full potency of life. So I'll add one more thing. The soul, which is what you are as an incarnation, the mind, body, emotions, can be corrupted. You can corrupt your emotions. You can corrupt your mind. You can corrupt your body in this lifetime. The soul is corruptible. Your spirit is eternal and exists somewhere else. It's never been born. It's self-perfected. It's self-arisen. It is self-beautifying. And it's never been born. And it's never died. That's another piece of yourself. That's completely different from the soul. That's the spirit. The spirit resides somewhere else. The soul resides here in this material incarnation, and it's corruptible. Just as your body can be hurt, damaged, and diseased, so can the other two bodies that you exist in. And so because of that, we have to really maintain these things if we want to live a full, long, healthy life of joy. And so that means there's an upkeep needed. And this is also how we unwillingly lose our power, because we engage in things that corrupt us. We live a life of corruption. And sometimes that corruption of the spirit is really an agreement. We've agreed that we have to be that person that just works all day, works every day, gets married at 22, has 3 kids, goes into debt. That right there is enough to just start to create deformities in the soul structure, because your beliefs are creating some of the issues that's in your soul structure too. So there's ways to deal with that as well, but I just wanted to add that there is a maintenance needed to keep a healthy soul in this incarnation. Um, so I hope I've helped. I hope I've explained some things to you about the soul retrieval process. And again, you can contact me if you need some place to go to receive these retrievals, and some good work from authentic shamans, from real initiated and trained shamans. You can contact me, and I will send you in the right direction.